There's one truth I've learned that cuts deeper than almost anything else. The pain of regret will haunt you longer than the fear of risk ever will. Think about it. When you look back on your life, the things that keep you awake at night aren't the chances you took. It's the ones you didn't. It's the conversation you never started, the job you didn't apply for, the dream you kept buried because you were too afraid of what might go wrong. Here's the reality: fear feels safe. It convinces you to play small, to wait, to analyze every detail until the moment passes you by. But risk is a lie. Risk is movement. Risk cracks open the door to possibility. Sure, you might stumble, you might even fall, but at least you'll know you lived. Regret is one of the heaviest emotions a human being can carry, and the truth is, it never really leaves you. Fear shows up loud, it gets in your face, it makes your palms sweat and your heart pound. But fear is temporary. The moment you take action, fear starts to dissolve. Regret, though, that lingers, it sticks. It whispers to you when you're lying in bed at night. It plays reruns of the moments you could have spoken up, could have taken a chance, could have done something bold, but didn't. We often think failure will be the thing that hurts the most. That if we take a risk and it doesn't work out, the disappointment will crush us. But here's what nobody tells you: failure passes. Failure hurts, yes, but it teaches. You dust yourself off, you grow, and you move on. Regret doesn't give you that chance. Regret is like a locked door. You can't go back and change what you didn't do. And because of that, it stays with you heavier and sharper than any failure ever could. Think about it. Can you remember a time you were terrified to do something? Ask someone out, apply for a job, speak up at a meeting, but you pushed yourself and did it anyway. Do you remember how your body shook with nerves? And do you also remember that within seconds of doing it, the fear started to fade? That's because fear lives in anticipation, not in action. Once you're in motion, fear loses its grip. Now flip the coin. Think about the moments you didn't take the risk, the words you swallowed, the chances you let pass, the opportunities you convinced yourself weren't for you. Those memories don't fade. They sit inside you like a stone in your shoe, reminding you of the moment you played it safe instead of stepping into your power. That's regret, and it will outlast any fear you've ever felt. Here's the crazy part: most people think avoiding risk will keep them safe. They think staying comfortable will protect them. But comfort comes with a cost, and that cost is regret. Because every single time you play it safe, you're trading in a possible win, or even a valuable failure, for a lifetime of wondering, what if? And what if is poison. It's that voice that says, what if I had started that business? What if I had said yes? What if I had tried? That voice is brutal because there are no answers. You can't test the alternate version of your life. You just carry the weight of not knowing. And let me tell you, that weight is so much heavier than the weight of fear. Fear screams at you in the moment. Regret whispers to you forever. So here's the truth you've got to face. Taking a risk is never as dangerous as living with regret. At least with risk, you're alive. You're trying, you're moving, you're giving yourself a shot. You may win, you may fail, but either way, you won't be lying on your deathbed years from now wondering what could have happened if you had just been a little braver. Because when people are at the end of their lives, do you know what they talk about? Not their failures, not the businesses that went under, not the times they tried something and fell flat on their face. They talk about the chances they didn't take. They talk about the love they never confessed, the dreams they never pursued, the versions of themselves they never allowed to exist. That's why I'm telling you, fear is short-lived, but regret is permanent. Fear ends the second you step into action. Regret, that sticks. So when you're faced with a choice, risk or regret, you already know which one you can afford. Life doesn't reward hesitation, it rewards courage. And courage isn't the absence of fear, it's action in the presence of fear. If you want a life that feels alive, you have to start taking risks. because the only thing worse than failing is never even trying. So the next time fear shows up, I want you to remember this: the sting of regret will last far longer than the fear of risk. And if you're going to feel pain either way, at least choose the one that leads to growth. Here's a simple truth: every time you take a risk, you give yourself the chance to grow. And growth is never guaranteed when you stay comfortable. Playing it safe might keep you from failing, but it also keeps you from evolving. Risk is the birthplace of progress. Think about the first time you learned something new: riding a bike, speaking in front of a class, learning a skill. Was it easy? No. You probably fell, stumbled, maybe even embarrassed yourself. But every single slip up was a stepping stone to mastery. If you had stopped the first time you messed up, you would have robbed yourself of the growth that came with trying again. That's what risk does. It forces you out of autopilot and into a space where you have to stretch. And stretching feels uncomfortable. It feels scary, but it's the only way you become more than who you were yesterday. Here's the part most people get wrong: they think failure is the opposite of growth. It's not. Failure is growth. Failure is proof that you were in motion, that you were brave enough to take the shot. Failure gives you dated experience, resilience, the exact ingredients you need to succeed the next time. The only thing that kills growth is doing nothing. Let me put it this way: if you always stay where it's safe, you'll never find out how strong you really are. You'll never test the limits of what you're capable of. And if you never test those limits, you'll live a life smaller than the one you were built for. Risks stretch your capacity. Risks introduce you to parts of yourself you would never meet otherwise. Imagine this: you're standing at the edge of a cliff, looking out over the ocean. Behind you is comfort, safety, predictability. Ahead of you is the unknown. You don't know how cold the water is. You don't know if the current will be strong. You don't know how far you'll have to swim. Your fear says stay where you are, don't jump. What if it's dangerous? But your growth, the stronger, braver version of you, lives in the water. The only way to meet that version is to leap. Now, let's be real, not every leap goes perfectly. Sometimes the landing hurts. Sometimes you belly flop. But even then, you're in the water, you're moving, you're alive. And you've already grown more in that one messy jump than you ever would have standing frozen on the cliff. That's the power of risk. It transforms you, even when it doesn't give you the outcome you wanted. Especially then, because the lessons you take from a failed risk often become the very foundation of your future success. Look at anyone you admire: an athlete, an entrepreneur, an artist, a leader. Every single one of them has a track record of risks. And do you think every risk worked out? Of course not. They stumbled, they faced rejection, they made mistakes. But every failure was part of their growth. Every risk carved out the resilience, creativity, and strength that made their success possible. And here's the kicker: when you avoid risks because you're afraid to fail, you're actually failing by default. You're failing to grow. You're failing to experience the full range of what life could offer you. Risk doesn't guarantee success, but avoiding risk guarantees stagnation. So the choice isn't between failing and succeeding. The choice is between growing and staying stuck. Risk equals growth, whether you win or not. And here's the beautiful thing: once you realize that, fear starts to lose its power. Because failure stops looking like the end of the road and starts looking like a step on the path. You stop asking, "What if I fall?" and start asking, "What will I learn? Who will I become?" Growth is messy, it's unpredictable, it's uncomfortable, but it's the only thing that makes life exciting, fulfilling, worth living. And the only way to get it is to risk rejection, to risk discomfort, to risk not getting it right the first time. Because in the end, it's not about avoiding failure. It's about building a life where you're constantly becoming stronger, wiser, and more alive. And the only way to do that is to take risks again and again and again. So remember this: when you choose risk, you choose growth. And growth will always take you further than safety ever will. Fear is sneaky. It doesn't always come knocking at your door dressed in panic, sweaty palms, and racing heartbeat. Sometimes it shows up wearing a suit and tie, disguised as logic. Fear whispers things that sound smart. Now isn't the right time. You need more experience. Let's wait until everything is perfect. And because it sounds rational, you believe it. You nod your head, you step back, you convince yourself that you're making a wise decision. But here's the truth, that logic isn't logic at all. It's fear hiding behind excuses. It's your comfort zone trying to keep you locked inside. And the problem is, comfort doesn't equal safety. It equals stagnation. Think about how many times you've wanted to do something bold, something exciting, something different, and your brain immediately gave you a perfectly reasonable sounding excuse not to. Maybe you wanted to start a business, but your brain said, let's wait until the economy improves. Maybe you wanted to speak up at work, but your brain said, don't rock the boat, just keep your head down. Maybe you wanted to move to a new city, but your brain said, it's not responsible. Stay where things are predictable. On the surface, all of those reasons sound smart, but peel back the layers and what do you find? Fear. Fear of failing. Fear of judgment. Fear of stepping into the unknown. Here's the kicker, your brain isn't wired for greatness. It's wired for survival. It doesn't care if you're fulfilled, happy, or living your purpose. It just wants you safe, predictable, alive. So when you're about to take a risk, your brain sends out the alarm bells, not because you can't handle it, but because it's unfamiliar. And unfamiliar feels dangerous, even when it's the very thing that could change your life. This is why people stay stuck. They confuse fear with logic. They call their hesitation being practical. They say things like, I'll do it when I'm ready, forgetting that nobody ever feels ready for something they've never done before. Let me hit you with this. If your dream doesn't scare you, it's not big enough. Fear means you're on the edge of growth. Fear means you're stepping into a space where you have the chance to become more. So the next time you catch yourself justifying why you shouldn't go for something, pause and ask yourself, is this really logic? Or is this just fear pretending to be smart? Because here's the thing, true logic pushes you forward. It helps you plan, strategize, and prepare. Fear, on the other hand, keeps you frozen. One moves you, the other paralyzes you. And if you can't tell the difference, you'll spend your life playing small while calling it being realistic. You know what's realistic? Regret. Regret is what you get when you let fear masquerading as logic run your life. Regret is the inevitable outcome of never taking the shot. And when you look back years from now, those logical excuses won't matter. All that will matter is the opportunities you let slip because you were too busy trying to feel safe. Here's the shift. Stop asking, is this safe? And start asking, is this worth it? Stop asking, do I feel ready? And start asking, will this help me grow? If the answer is yes, take the leap, because logic is not supposed to protect you from fear. It's supposed to guide you through it. Remember this, fear is not the enemy. Staying comfortable is. Fear will always show up, but if you learn to see through its disguise, you'll realize that every excuse, every hesitation, every not yet, is really just your comfort zone begging you not to leave it. And let's be honest, you weren't built to live your entire life inside your comfort zone. You were built to expand it. And the only way to expand it is to stop listening to fear pretending to be logic and start choosing the risks that actually move you forward. Because fear dressed as logic might keep you comfortable for now, but it'll cost you everything you could have become. Momentum is the secret sauce of progress. It's invisible, yet it's the difference between feeling alive and feeling stuck. And here's the truth, momentum doesn't come from waiting. It doesn't come from planning endlessly, analyzing every angle, or waiting for the perfect moment. Momentum comes from action. Bold, decisive, uncomfortable action. One step forward, one choice to risk, one commitment to yourself. Momentum begins then. Think about the last time you actually did something that scared you. Maybe it was speaking up in a room full of people, asking for a promotion, or finally starting a project you had been dreaming about for months. Remember the surge of energy afterward. That spark that made you feel like anything was possible. That's momentum. That's the power of action. Now compare it to the times you hesitated. You waited for clarity that never came. You sat frozen, thinking, I'll do it tomorrow, next week, next month. And what happened? Nothing, absolutely nothing. The dream didn't get closer. The fear didn't disappear. You were stuck in the exact same place, wondering why life seemed so heavy and stagnant. That's hesitation. And hesitation is the enemy of progress. Here's the thing, bold moves, no matter how small, compound. They create energy that carries you forward. They give you confidence. They prove to your mind, body, and soul that you are capable of more than you thought. Momentum doesn't care if you win or fail at first. It only cares that you move. Because once you're moving, every next step feels easier. Every challenge feels manageable. Every obstacle becomes a chance to push further. Let me give you a real-world example. A single phone call. Just one. Maybe it's a call to a client, a mentor, or someone you've been afraid to reach out to. That one call can start a chain reaction. One bold move sparks another. Suddenly, doors open that you didn't even know existed. Opportunities appear that you never would have found while sitting still. That's the power of momentum. Action creates motion, and motion creates results. Contrast that with hesitation. Hesitation multiplies self-doubt. It tells you, maybe I'm not ready. Maybe I can't do it. Every day you wait, fear grows stronger. Every moment you stay stuck, momentum dies before it even begins. And the most frustrating part, you start convincing yourself that inaction is actually the safe choice. It's not. It's the quiet thief of dreams. Bold moves aren't about being reckless. They're about taking intentional, courageous steps toward what matters most. Momentum is built by showing up, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it feels impossible. Momentum is built by choosing action over analysis paralysis. Momentum is built by deciding today that you're not going to wait for life to hand you an opportunity. You're going to create it. And here's the beautiful part. Momentum is contagious. The more you act, the braver you become. The more risks you take, the more doors open. Your confidence grows, your energy grows. Your life starts moving in a direction you can actually see. And once that momentum starts, it doesn't just help you achieve one goal. It propels you into everything you've ever wanted to achieve. Hesitation, on the other hand, leads to regret, stagnation, a life that feels heavy and unfulfilled. Momentum is living. Hesitation is surviving. And if you want a life that excites you, challenges you, and fills you with pride, there is only one choice: bold action. Start now. Start small if you must, but start. Because every bold move is a push against fear, a step toward growth, and the spark that keeps momentum alive. The moment you act, hesitation loses. The moment you move, your future starts catching up to you. And the life you've been dreaming about, it's not going to wait for you to feel ready. It's waiting for you to start moving. Here's a hard truth. Life doesn't reward intentions. Life doesn't reward someday. Life doesn't reward the plans you make in your head or the dreams you whisper to yourself at night. Life rewards action. Bold, committed, uncomfortable action. It rewards the people who show up, even when they're scared, even when they don't feel ready. And it punishes the ones who wait for perfect conditions or invent excuses that make doing nothing feel okay. Excuses are easy. They're comfortable. They make us feel like we're responsible and reasonable, even when we're secretly avoiding growth. I'll do when I have more time. I can't because I don't have the resources. I'm not ready yet. How many times have you heard yourself say these words? Or worse, thought them quietly in your own head? Each one feels harmless in the moment, but together they add up. They build a wall between you and the life you were meant to live. Here's the brutal truth: excuses will never get you closer to your goals. They will never make your dreams real. The world doesn't bend for hesitation. Opportunities don't linger for the cautious. Your talent, your potential, your brilliance, they remain dormant until you act. Every excuse you make is a missed chance. Every delay is a gamble against yourself.